Hi, everyone, and welcome to another Software and Internet Monthly Market Report brought to you by Sanford Advisors for the month of March 2022. It was another relatively busy month. We'll talk about the trends and the long-term trends in a little bit, but still on the M&A front, $54 billion invested in March, 124 transactions, um, and a median revenue multiple of 10.9 times. A couple of the big notable deals obviously was Thoma Bravo's acquisition of Anaplan for 10.7 billion, and Google acquiring Mandiant for 5.4 billion. Both those deals were at 17.6 times and 6.6 times revenue, respectively. So, some very large transactions, obviously driving that deal volume, and some pretty healthy multiples on both those transactions. Where does it kind of stack up for the rest of the year? Well, we're on track to, on a dollar basis to greatly exceed last year. And last year was a record by a long way. So it's kind of interesting to see that the larger deals are really driving that. Interestingly enough, the number of transactions is if you annualize that, is set to kind of decline year over year. And that's not too surprising. I mean, if you look at the trend line, last year was a massive peak in terms of mid-market activity that happened. You would expect a little bit of softening on that. And we can talk about that, the number of deals that are happening in a second, but not too unexpected. But more interesting for me is that some of these really large deals are happening and likely going to lead us to a very high dollar volume year if this trend continues. In terms of the valuations, this is always a chart that we like to focus in on. The spread between the 75th percentile at 15.6 times so far year to date and 5.1 times on the 25th percentile is still quite wide. And I think that's what we're seeing a lot is metrics are really driving transactions right now, and strategic transactions are still driving those upper values. But there is still a lot of variability in the marketplace on valuation, and it really depends on some of the metrics like we've talked about before, like size, growth rate, revenue retention, and those sort of metrics that lead you to get a differentiated value if they're very strong. On the overall valuation side, SaaS and non-SaaS multiples have continued to rise this year. This is a bit of a surprising trend. Obviously, last year was quite the increase from 2020. And this is a big significant jump, especially on the SaaS side from 2019 or the unaffected kind of pre-COVID numbers. So I would think as the year goes on that this comes down a little bit from 13.4 times and is more consistent with 2021's level. But I guess we'll wait and see where that comes out. On the non-SaaS side, those numbers are up as well. So quite healthy so far year to date. But again, I would probably expect there's not many data points in that 5.9 times, and that's going to come down as the year progresses. And then on the monthly deal count, I think this is interesting and something that we're definitely watching here at Sanford. So, in the last half of 2021, we were high 100s deals per month. And for the last couple of months, we've been down in the, 118, 124. So it'll be interesting to see where this comes out. We're definitely seeing a little bit less activity than we saw last year, a little bit more cautiousness. So it'll be interesting to see if that trend continues over the next few months and drops down to levels more consistent with pre-pandemic. On the VC side of stuff, another strong month, 8.9 billion invested in March. 497 transactions and a median deal size of $5 million. So a very healthy month. Again, some very large transactions with Ramp raising 750 and Consensus raising 450 million. So some large transactions driving that deal volume. And where does that kind of put us? Well, actually very consistent with last year in terms of the dollar volume. Like actually the way we're trending after one quarter here is that we'll be pretty consistent with 2021's volumes. Down a little bit on the transactions, which again is not too unexpected given how many transactions happened last year. And then on the valuation side, a little bit of a normalizing on terms of the early and mid-stage deals, and the late-stage deals have continued to increase. So we'll see where these kind of numbers come out as the year progresses. Anyway, if you need anything, feel free to reach out, and we look forward to talking to you next month.